somebody to be the leader in it. You need somebody to take this step forward. Alberta's, pioneered a lot of concepts over the years, and I think, the moment they take that step, I think other jurisdictions will either review what's being done or also potentially get some pressure to potentially follow suit.
Hey folks, Flo here with Blockchain North at the CBC's Alberta Trade Mission Digital Asset Day. I'm here with Didier from Tetra Trust. First of all, you are based here in Calgary, your company. So why don't you tell us, why did you make that decision?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, Tetra is based here. We've been here since 2019. The reality is Alberta has always been a really willing province in terms of helping, digital asset companies. They helped us with the framework to get registered as a custodian in 2021. They were the first to, kind of take that path forward with us, and we've been proud Calgarians ever since.
And you're wearing the cowboy hat that goes with it. It is Stampede. So there's, a lot of talk this year in particular at this event about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I realize that this is something that could take some time, and there's a lot of red tape. We actually had the Minister of Red Tape Reduction here today. Yeah. Could you walk us a little bit through what the implications are for a province to set up a strategic Bitcoin reserve?
Yeah, I think it would be an amazing step forward, right? Both for Alberta and for Canada. I think it would send a really strong signal in terms of validating Bitcoin, as something that you can put on your balance sheet and as a reserve currency and a hedge against inflation. I think there's also a sovereignty component to it from, Alberta and Albertans to want this to happen. And there's a willingness from the government to explore it as well, which we heard today. So I think it's all very positive, and I think it would be an amazing outcome for both Albertans, but also for Canada as a country.
And that's what I was going to ask. So, it's great that Alberta is doing it. We're Canadians, and of course, the impact would be far greater for the country if the whole country had a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Do you see sort of a how do you call that, game theory situation where, Alberta announces it and perhaps other provinces follow suit quite quickly?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely how most things happen, right? You need somebody to be the leader in it. You need somebody to take this step forward. I think Alberta's, pioneered a lot of concepts over the years, and I think, the moment they take that step, I think other jurisdictions will either review what's being done or also potentially get some pressure, both from their constituents and, from party members to potentially follow suit. So I do think it would be an important step, and I do think others would follow or at least study the outcome of the initiative,
which is usually the first step before making a move. And finally, Canada has been challenged over the last, let's say, maybe 6 months or so, in terms of its very sovereignty. In fact, at least in words, we could say that. And also, we are kind of behind, I think, certainly behind the US and perhaps behind Europe in terms of adoption, in terms of legislation around blockchain technology in Canada. So could that help us catch up, basically?
Yeah, I think it would. There's a lot of progress happening here in this province in terms of, willingness to, adopt, digital asset technology, Bitcoin reserves. There's a lot of conversation going. There's a lot of investments coming into the province. So I do think it would help move the needle and potentially, bring the rest of Canada forward in terms of their thinking. We're also partners with a lot of great companies across the country, and a lot of them are evaluating Alberta as a place to start businesses and to continue to grow. Tetra itself launched 2 new businesses in Alberta in the last couple of months because we see it as a favorable jurisdiction. So I do think it would be a step forward in terms of progress. Now, we probably don't want to fully follow suit to what's going on in the U.S. because, there's some of these policies that potentially are not the best for Canadians. But overall, I would think it would trigger a lot more momentum for the country and potentially signal to Ottawa that there's further steps to be taken.
And one idea you just gave me is you talked about moving west. So you're originally from Montreal. I think you were in Toronto for a while, and now you're in Calgary. So you're moving westward. But you are a Montrealer, and I'm based there, and I love Quebec. Quebec, of course, has had a moratorium on Bitcoin mining for several years already. Yeah. Could you see Quebec's position actually change in the coming years, especially in the context of, like I said, a threat to Canada's sovereignty?
I think it will. I think when I think about Bitcoin, I think about digital gold. I look at what's going on with physical gold. I think it's inevitable for people to want to hold this. I think it's inevitable for provinces to, allocate to this as well. I think Alberta is a little bit different with the Heritage Fund, so they have the possibility to potentially make a strategic allocation at the provincial balance sheet level, right? Which might be more complex for other provinces. But I do believe there's an outcome where all provinces are essentially invested in Bitcoin, and that the federal government is at least from a just from an inflation hedge perspective, but also because it's a terrific asset to hold as on your balance sheet.
Definitely agree with that. Thank you very much, Didier.
Thank you.
Pleasure.